Sometimes faith isn't strength. It's surrender. Not when you stand tall, but when you realize you can't, and still choose to believe. Sometimes faith isn't about holding on, but about letting go. This is the story of a man who spent his whole life holding on to his past, to his fear, to his pain, until he finally understood that what he was clinging to was the very thing that was drowning him. His name was Michael. He lived in a small coastal town, where the air always smelled of salt and wood, and the waves crashed close enough that at night you could hear them whispering, as if they were calling the names of those the sea had once taken. Michael was a fisherman. Since childhood he had learned to read the sea, to know when it breathed, when it rested, and when it demanded silence. His father used to tell him, "The sea isn't your enemy, son. It's just stronger than you. If you want to live, don't fight it, listen to it." But when his father drowned, Michael stopped listening. He decided he'd never let the sea win again. He became strong, silent, and tireless. Worked from dawn till dusk, mending nets, fixing boats, and keeping his thoughts locked away. Years later, there was a storm. The kind that tears roofs off houses. His wife was caught in it, on her way home from the nearby island. She never made it back. After that, something in him froze. He stopped laughing. He stopped praying. People said he wasn't cruel, just empty. He still went out to sea, but not for fish. He went so he wouldn't have to hear the silence of his empty home. When the wind howled, he gripped the wheel so tightly his knuckles turned white. He wasn't afraid of the waves. He was afraid of himself. He rarely spoke to God. But sometimes, when the sea grew wild, he'd whisper, "If you're there, please, no more taking." And sometimes the sea would calm. Just like that. But peace never came. He lived as if on borrowed time. One autumn evening, a new pastor came to town. Young, soft-spoken, with eyes that seemed to listen. He didn't preach long sermons. He just sat beside people, sometimes on the pier, watching the sun sink into the water. That's how he met Michael. "You're the one who goes out when everyone else stays home, right?" the pastor asked. Michael gave a half smile. "Yeah. I don't have much of a choice." "There's always a choice," the pastor said. "Even for those who think they've run out." Michael shrugged. "God's in the storm. If I'm still alive, that means he's nearby." The pastor looked at him quietly. "Maybe he's not just in the storm. Maybe you just stopped listening to how he speaks in the stillness." A few days later, Michael stepped inside the chapel. Small, wooden, filled with the faint scent of wax and cedar. He stood near the door, not daring to move closer. He watched the candles flicker, saw how the light danced on the icons, and suddenly felt how heavy his heart had been, how long he had carried it alone. After the service, the pastor came over. "See that candle," he said. "It burns even when the wind sneaks in. That's what faith is. Quiet, but unshakable." "I'm too tired to believe," Michael said softly. "Then just trust," the pastor replied. "Sometimes faith isn't a step forward. It's stepping back, so God can move instead." Weeks later, another storm came. The sky turned gray. The wind howled through the streets. People ran home. But Michael stood by his boat. He didn't want to go. But he felt he had to. His last catch was still out there. It was his only way to live. He looked up and whispered, "If you're still with me." The waves rose like dark walls. When one crashed into the boat, he lost his footing and fell. Cold water swallowed him. He fought, kicked, gasped for air. But the sea was stronger. And as the waves pulled him under, he realized he couldn't win. For the first time in years, he stopped fighting. He closed his eyes and said, "Lord, if you're here, I let go. Let it be your way." And then, he let go. He didn't remember how he got to shore. When he opened his eyes, he saw the chapel cross glowing in the pale light of dawn. He felt warmth inside. Not joy, not pain, just peace. He was alive. And for the first time, he didn't ask why. From that day, Michael changed. He still went out to sea. But not to conquer it. He went to be with it. To listen again. Sometimes young fishermen would ask, "How do you stop being afraid?" He would smile and say, "You don't stop. You just trust more than you fear. Fear is part of the journey. Just don't hold it tighter than God." Michael never became a saint or a preacher. He was still a fisherman. But something in his eyes was different. There was calmness. Like the ocean after a storm. Sometimes God waits. Until we stop fighting the waves. Until we stop clinging to what's already gone. Because sometimes the miracle isn't surviving the storm. It's surrendering in it. When we hold too tightly, our hands are too full for grace. But when we let go, God fills them again. Just like the sea. That always returns to stillness. And begins to reflect the sky.